Okay guys, so you are now officially done with the early man unit. And so, yay, pat yourself on the back, you did it. Now we're going to move on to ancient Mesopotamia. So, let's first talk about what the standard is asking us to do. And then talk about what the word Mesopotamia even means. Alright? So the first thing it says in the standard is 6.05, identify and locate geographical features. We talked about these things that were, they are not man-made. They're found in nature, geographical features, right? So, alright, so locate certain geographical features of ancient Mesopotamia, and those things include the Black Sea, the Persian Gulf, the Euphrates River, Tigris River, some people say Tigris, and the Mediterranean Sea, and the Zagros Mountains. So we're going to talk about several more places than that because guess what? We have a lot more units to go through, and the sooner that you get to know these parts of the globe and the map, the better off you are going to be. So we're going to go ahead and label more places than just those things that it's asking us to, because it's always better to know more than know less, right? Alright, so the first thing I want you to do is write about this word Mesopotamia. You remember this from earlier. We had the Mesolithic age, and we said that that meant the middle, or I told you it could mean between, right? So this word in Greek, so up here on the very top, right small, in this right, in Greek, it means, put your little quotations here, it means the land between two rivers. So two rivers. And you can write the word two, T-W-O. You can write that out if you want to, but I'm not going to because I don't want to run out of space. But you're welcome to. So the land between two rivers. Now, Mesopotamia, when we get into it, draw yourself an arrow up here, and it's modern day Iraq. Alright? That's where we find Mesopotamia now. It's modern day Iraq. So, this area is also known as, so you can put A-K-A. You've heard that before, AKA. So Mesopotamia is also known as the cradle, like a little baby cradle of civilization. The cradle of civilization is another name for it, right? So, you have that, and I'm hoping that at this point, everybody has got these things written. If not, you can hit pause, but I'm going to move on to the lower portion of the map since we've talked about the standard and we've actually broken Mesopotamia apart and talked about what it meant. So, alright, so the next thing is the map. The first thing we're going to do is label the different locations that we need to know. Alright? One of them was the Black Sea. So it asked us to label the Black Sea. So I would prefer if you had a good sharpened pencil so that you can write all these things in. And write them as neatly as you can. You want to be able to read your writing because you are going to need to study this map. So there's the Black Sea that you have, alright? And over here, the one over on the right-hand side is the Caspian Sea. Caspian Sea, alright? And then after that, now, remember when you first look at a map, you need to think to yourself, what is land and what is water? So a lot of times there's good indicators that maybe this area is water because, well, it's shaded a different color than the rest. So that will kind of indicate what's water and what's land, but don't get confused because sometimes map makers will switch it up on you, and the white area or the lighter color will be water and the darker color will be land. So you really need to examine it. What am I really looking at when I start to try to figure out the areas and locations on my map. So the next body of water we're going to label is going to be the Mediterranean Sea. Now this is a long word, so you're going to want to write it small. Everybody gets confused of what there's two of, and it's two R's. Don't think there's not two D's or two T's. It's just two R's. Mediterranean Sea. All right. Then this one down here that looks like a V, or looks like kind of a crab claw, you know, kind of looks like that. It's the Red Sea. And we'll have it again later on. It'll be in another unit we'll talk about. And over on this right-hand side again is going to be the Persian Persian Gulf. Have you seen those little Persian cats? They've got those little flat faces. They don't even have a nose. And a little fur. They're so cute. Anyway, not the Persian cat, but the Persian Gulf. Now, also, we labeled our compass rose in an earlier map, but we're going to relabel this one, and I hope that everybody knows that we have 4 cardinal directions. The 4 cardinal directions go across, and so at the top we have north, the bottom is south, okay, then we have east on the right, and west on the left. And then in the middle, we have intermediate directions. You don't have to draw those lines in the middle that I did, but you can if you want to. The intermediate ones are northeast, and I'm just going to abbreviate them because you should be able to remember them. Southeast, northwest, and southwest. Okay? So be sure you have those labeled. Now you need to know those directions. It's going to help you become a better historian. All right? Now, we're going to label some rivers. But before we do that, what I would like for you to do is go ahead and get your blue pencil. You should have a blue coloring pencil, an orange, a green, you can use either light brown or you can use tan. So those are the colors you need. You need green, blue, orange, and tan or light brown. All right, so I'm going to switch over to my blue, and I'm just going, let me see how I want that. Okay, I'm just going to outline the rivers. That's where is that? We all make mistakes sometimes, don't we? That's why erasers. Now, you're going to just kind of follow the lines of this river. All right, this is going to be one of the rivers that we label. It's going to be the Tigris or the Tigris River. When we get there, okay. Well, I don't really do that, but there's something on the board, I think. And you can see that there's other rivers here. We're not going to label these at this time, but you can outline them just because they are rivers. You're welcome to do that. There's a river down here that's very important, and we will talk a lot about this river in a later unit. And this river is the Nile River, and we'll label it as well. Okay, and then also there's a little sea right here with a river, and then another sea up here. So you can go ahead and draw that as well. So you should have all of your rivers labeled. Now we'll go back and we'll color the seas a little bit later. Okay. You can actually, if you want to, take a minute and color those those seas. You can go ahead and do that. Okay, so at this point, you have your seas colored and labeled, and you should have all of the rivers colored also, or at least just outlined, okay? We're going to continue labeling. Now, let's go ahead and start with this river over here that looks like it's got a claw over here on the left side of your paper, and you're just going to write, I want to switch to Blackfeet. We're just going to write Nile River. Okay, so there's that river. And then this one up here, so we're going to go Tigris or Tigris River. You'll hear different words, so I'll try to always tell you this, you know, someone says tomato, someone says tomato, but it's still a tomato, right? Anyway, so we have Euphrates. We want to test it over those for sure. Okay, so we have those two rivers labeled. Now over here, I want you just to kind of draw a little arrow. That's green, that's a little funny. We're going to call this one, or its name is the Jordan River. Okay, Jordan River. And then up here is the Sea of Galilee. And this one is the Dead Sea. It doesn't mean the sea is dead. It just basically means that there's no real life in the sea. There's so much salt in it. And when we get to Israel and the Hebrews, Israel and the Hebrews, we'll talk about the Dead Sea. And we'll talk about all the salt in the water that makes it unlivable. And anyway, so now you should have all of your rivers labeled and all of your bodies of water labeled. Okay, and then we're going to label some other stuff. So I'd like for you to take your green that you got already, and right over here next to the Persian Gulf, draw yourself a few little mountains. Okay, just kind of like this. And we're going to label those here in a little bit too. Then up here next to the Caspian Sea, right at the edge of these little rivers here, I want you to label, we're going to label those as well. And then over here where all of these rivers kind of look like they start, because a lot of times you're going to notice in geography that, you know, rivers a lot of times start in higher elevations and they run down to the sea, of course. So we're going to put some mountain ranges up there. And then right over here inside the little crab claw or lobster claw, you're going to draw one big mountain right there. Alright, and then we're going to switch back to our pencil and we're going to label those. Now, we'll start over here where we began drawing the mountains, and we have the Zagros Mountains. And that will stay put. Zagros. And you can abbreviate mountains like this. MTS, that's fine. You know, you're going to run out of space, so abbreviations, you know that it says mountains and you want to abbreviate it, perfect, okay? Then up here next to these top mountains beside the Caspian Sea, we are going to put, it's the, my computer's acting funny. It's the Caucasus Mountains. That's US. Alright, and you can abbreviate that as well. Just go ahead and put your little abbreviation there. Okay. So I'm sorry, I had a visitor for a minute, and they're gone now, so we'll get back to work. Then we have the Taurus Mountains over here. Like I said, just try to neatly write it as best as you can. You're going to want to study these. Miss Anderson's writing on this board is not as pretty as what I hope yours is. I did move the map some, didn't I? I need to try to readjust that. Just a little bit, that way. That looks better, doesn't it? Okay. Switch back over to our pencil. Now, there's one more mountain that we need to label, and this one you can draw a little arrow pointing to it, and it's a mount portion of this, Sinai, okay, so we'll call it Sinai or Sinai, and you're going to hear it different ways. So just make sure you have that labeled. And then what I'd like for you to do is take your pencil and right here at the tip of that lobster claw, make yourself a pretty good sized zigzag line. It doesn't need to take up lots of room, but just a zigzag line right there, that's going to show you a separation of two different continents, all right? So when we talk about Egypt, we are going to know that we are in the continent of Africa. Okay? And then when we talk about Mesopotamia, I need you to know that we are in the continent of Asia. Okay? Now, this zigzag line just shows you where the continents kind of separates right there. Alright? Now, this area in between Africa, the Red Sea, and the Persian Gulf, this area is the Syrian desert. Not the Syrian desert, but the Syrian desert. Now, there is a little place that I'm going to tell you about that's not necessarily on our test, but it is something that we'll talk about later on. This little area right here called Phoenicia. Now, if I'm thinking like a historian, I would believe that Phoenicia is in a very good location because Phoenicia is located next to the Mediterranean Sea, and it at one time was a highway for trade. So Phoenicia lay between the Fertile Crescent and was part of the Fertile Crescent and lay between Mesopotamia and all the civilizations there and all the civilizations that develop over here in the Mediterranean Sea like Greece and Rome. So Phoenicia was a very prominent place for a while, and some of our language comes from Phoenicia, hence phonetics and phoneme and all of these different things. So anyway, that's just a cool little place to know, or cool little thing to know that is right there. And this little island right here, if you don't have enough room to write on it, you can just draw yourself an arrow and point to it. This is Cyrus. Okay? Now, right up above that area is what we know as modern day Turkey. But it wasn't Turkey yet. We're going to put Turkey in parentheses. We're calling this place Anatolia. To historians, we know it as both. We know it's modern day Turkey, but we also know that it was Anatolia as well, back in the ancient times. Is everybody, hopefully everybody has this. And now we're going to get down to some coloring. All right. So go ahead and get your green again. So grab your green. If you're not done labeling, that is okay. You do not have to be done labeling. But if you aren't, you need to hit pause because I'm moving on without you. Okay? So hit pause, get everything labeled, check your labels to make sure everything is where it needs to be. All right. So the first thing I want you to do is notice that there is a dark black line that starts at the Persian Gulf and it loops around right here all the way over to Phoenicia. Okay? And then there's a second one of those. This is not a river. This is me showing you and your map showing you where the Fertile Crescent is. And what I want you to really notice is its shape. Once I've outlined it in green, you can see that the shape of that highlighting is the shape of a crescent, like a crescent moon. So we're just going to lightly color all of that within those lines green. And I mean really lightly shade that area. It doesn't need to be very dark. You just need to lightly shade it. Okay? Just kind of like what I'm doing. I know it's a little dark on mine, but just keep in mind that yours is going to be prettier. We're hoping yours is prettier. Right, right. Okay. And then this area would also be the Fertile Crescent. Let me pause this. I want to make it look. Well, I guess you can see it okay. I don't really like the way it's turned out, but. Alright. Okay, I changed mine a little bit so that you could be able to see it a little better. Anyway, so just notice that I've colored all of the area inside of that crescent shape. I have colored it green. Okay, so that tells me that it's fertile. It's called the fertile crescent, which means you're able to grow things there. So what these two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, would do every year, sometimes very unpredictably, but they would flood. And when they flood, they would overflow their banks and deposit what we called silt onto the land. It was a very, very fertile soil, very rich with minerals and nutrients, and it made planting a lot better and more. They could produce more each year with that soil. So what you're going to do down here in your map key, I want you to take that green and just go and shade your little block in, and you're going to label that the fertile crescent. Now, in the next block, get your green again and just go ahead and color that other block in green. Okay? And then I want you to get your orange, and you're just going to make some slanted lines through the box. Alright? Now, what we're going to do with those slanted lines is we're going to go up here to the fertile crescent again, and in between those two rivers, we're just going to draw that orange line, just like the box that we just drew. Okay? This is going to tell us that in between these two rivers, this area is called something else. And remember what we were talking about earlier when we first started talking about this new standard? We called this area the cradle of civilization. The land between two rivers? Yeah, the land between two rivers in Greek is Mesopotamia. So I'm going to go down here to that box, and I'm going to write Mesopotamia. That's how you spell it. Okay? And then inside of those two rivers, you can just write Mesopotamia. It's Mesopotamia. Okay? All right. That looks fantastic. I want you to make sure before you turn this video off that everything is labeled and that all of these things are colored exactly like I have colored these. Okay? Now, the next thing I want you to do is just to take your tan color that you have, or your light brown, and then throughout the rest of the area. Now, given there are some places that are still fertile, like for instance around the Nile River, there's probably some green right in here around the Delta area. Sure, but for the most part, everywhere else around Mesopotamia, the Fertile Crescent, was just kind of dry. It's more dry than it is moist. So it's more dry than it is fertile. So we're just going to color that area in with our tan or our light brown. Okay? And then once you have that, done, you are done, and you need to show your teacher so that you can get either your grade or maybe a ticket, because some people give tickets. So go ahead and finish that up. Make sure all your things are labeled, because that's what we're checking for. And all right, I will see you next time. Have a good day.